If you do any kind of paper crafting, you likely have quite the collection of word dies. Here are just some of mine. They've been around in my craft room for a long time, and I wanted to figure out other ways to use them aside from die cutting them and just slapping them on my project. So that's what this video is about: clever, fun, unique ways on how to use word dies. Let's dive in. Let's dive in. Let's dive in. Let's word dies. Oh, let's just go. Okie dokie. First up, let's stamp on it. So I've got this Thinking of You die. It's old as can be. Check your word die stash and see what you've got. And I just taped it down with some regular Scotch tape. Nothing fancy, to the bottom of my Misty. And then I have this also well-loved stamp set from Catherine Pooler. I use it all the time. It's absolutely stunning. It has coordinating dies too. But use what you've got in your stash. I encourage you to do that. So I'm going to ink it up with some ink here, and then I'm just going to stamp right onto the word die. And then I've got myself this very, very, very pretty word die. Look at this. Look at it. Oh, I lost the tittles. The tittles are the dots to the eyes. I lost them. Oh well. So off camera, I went ahead and stamped that same stamp in a different color ink. And here's some of the dies that work with the stamp. Has like 5 or 6 dies. You can cut all these different layers of this image out. I stamped it in a different color because originally I was going to create all one color, but it was just getting lost. So that's why I did this. So when I went ahead and die cut it off camera, I'm going to go ahead and start assembling. I'm really fiddling around here trying to figure out what works, what doesn't. I don't want that die cut to get lost. So I chose to use the bigger die cut of the image. I'm going to glue that down to some white cardstock, but this is a great opportunity to use any color cardstock you have as well. So I'll glue that down, then I'll take the other die cut I chose to use. I'm still finagling around. This is really how I figure things out. And this one I'm going to use some double-sided tape just to pop this up for just a little bit of something, something, something. So I'll pop that up, line it up, pop it in there, and then I'll use some glue. By the way, this glue is linked in the description box. If you see this little drop-down arrow below the video and you click on it, it'll expand the description box, and that's where you'll find a link to this glue. Got a lot of questions in the last video about it. I lost my tittles. Oh well, whatever. So here's a look at this card. It's cool. So think of all different kind of color combinations you can use with this little guy. Next up is stack them up. So this is a hello die. I just die cut it, I don't know, 6, 7 times, and I'm just basically going to glue it one on top of the other. I like this glue. It does give you a little bit of wiggle room. So that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to do it about 5 or 6 times, and that top color is going to be black. It doesn't have to be. It was just my way of letting me know, hey, I'm done. So glue it up, stack it up as much as you can. Today's sponsor is the Kinder Beauty Box. If you know me, you know I love makeup. I like to paint, so I like to paint my face. So this box is right up my alley. I do have a 40% off coupon below if you want to try it out. So be sure to check the description box. What I like in particular about this box is it's a clean, vegan, and cruelty-free line. The first box that you get, if you choose to order, will be the Kinder Faves box, which is what I'm going through right now. I have a couple of pictures of me even using some of the products. I did open the box on camera, but I took a few weeks to try out the products before. So here I am using that little eye thing. Helps with dark circles and stuff. Of course, Max kept getting in the way, but what are you going to do? It's cute, and I use that. But all this stuff, I especially love the mermaid lotion. I use that. I keep it on my craft desk. Actually, I use it all the time. So I really like this box, so you might too. So just click the link below if you want to learn more about it. All right, so I've got it all stacked up. It's nice. It's good. It's a very thick embellishment. You can stack it up as many times as you want. So you can adhere it down as is, or you can heat emboss it, and it's going to make a really cool like embellishment type thing. So I'm going to go find some washi tape, because here's a little hack when you're doing word dies. I'm going to flip the tape upside down. It does not have to be washi tape, any kind of non-tacky tape. You don't want to do Scotch. Well, I guess you could do Scotch tape, but I don't know. I wouldn't. I would use some low tack tape. Adhere the word die. I smushed on some embossing ink, and then I'm sprinkling on some cool embossing powder. You can see what it looks like by the lid of that embossing powder that was over to the left, and then I'll go ahead and heat set it. And that tape just keeps everything in place. I fold it over the outside edges so I can use it like a handle so it's not so sticky. So I'll heat emboss this, and then I'm able to easily pick it up, and there you go. Bada bang, bada boom. And here's what it looks like. Pretty. So pretty. All right, these are a bunch of 3D embossed card panels I did a long time ago. I keep all these, any backgrounds that I create, whether it's watercolored, stamped, embossed, whatever, I keep, and that way I can pull. It's kind of like a magic mug, but it's not a mug because I can't fit a card in a mug. So it's a magic bin, and it has all my background. So I just pulled out one of the 3D embossing images that I liked, and I adhered it down, and bada bang. Yeah, baby, moving on to shaker time. I did a shaker in my last video, so I felt very confident in my shaker abilities for the moment, which usually I'm not. So using a large word die is good for shakers because you need all that open space. So this is an oldie. Again, go see what you got in your room. And I went ahead and die cut that. This was my time to use some colored cardstock, so that's what I did. So I'm going around the outline of the letters with my glue, and then I'll adhere a piece of clear acetate, think plastic packaging, anything that's clear that you can adhere down because you want to be able to see through to see your shaker. All right, so think about what you might have in your stash. Sometimes stamp sets come with a piece of clear plastic too. So I'm going to go in and say, oh my Lord, I did not clean that blending brush. That stinks. My bad. I'm using some clay mask ink. And then I decided, forget all this, and I'm just going to swink it. You know my word swinking if you follow me. Swink it up if you don't. I've got a video linked in the description box below for you that talks all about the word I made up, swinking, and a whole bunch of techniques you can do with it. So I just went ahead and did that and added some water splotches because I love me some water splotches. And now I've got my background, and never know I had that but ugly color at the beginning because I used a dirty blending brush. Oh, the shame. So here is the double-sided foam tape time. Just go ahead. I cut my foam tape down. I cut it vertically to make it skinnier. Does that make sense? It's 1/2-inch foam tape, so I cut it down the middle. And I'm just going around the edges of the word die. You get it. You get what I'm saying here. Look how ugly that is from the back side of the shaker. And then I'm just going to drop in some sequins. I don't have a lot of sequins because, A, I can't do any embellishments. I can't do sequins placements on cards. It always looks very odd to me and awkward. Whereas other people do it and it looks so beautiful, I just can't do it. But the sequins that I do have are from Catherine Pooler, and I love them. So I'm sprinkling them inside the word die this time as opposed to what I did in my last video shaker. And then I'll press that ink blended background down, and look it. So you can leave it as is if you want, but I thought the front card panel looked a little plain, so I'm using this background stamp. I'm going to ink it up with some embossing ink. Now listen. You can use embossing ink without embossing powder. I don't know if you knew that, but it kind of makes like this watermark effect, if you will. You can see the lines there, and if you let it dry, it's going to look just like that. But let me show you both ways. So I'm just going to sprinkle on a little bit of white embossing powder. I'm not covering the whole image. I'm just dumping some on there with a spoon. Use your fingers, whatever. I just happen to have this spoon. I tried to funnel it back in and made a hot mess, so I cleaned that up off camera. And then I took a dry brush to kind of sweep away any that I didn't want, and then I'll go ahead and heat emboss this. I'm making sure not to let my heat gun heat over the plastic though, because that would probably have melted, I would expect. I don't know. Anyway, so now you can see it both ways. I like it both ways. I dig it, and I think that really tied together this card and made it a little less boring. Two-tone it. One color. You do not need 2 different color inks to do a two-tone look. So I'm being very heavy-handed. I'm using the same clay mask color. I just really love this color. Very heavy-handed at the top of the die, and then I'll just be very light-handed at the bottom. And then you can get a two-tone look with the same color. All right, so you don't need to go and have a bunch of different inks. You can do this with markers too. I just am not good with markers, so I'm using ink. It's easier for me, but think about what you have in your craft room that would work for this. Something that you can apply heavy at the top and light at the bottom, whatever that may be. And you've got this beautiful two-toned look die cut, and I think that is so pretty. Look at one color. All right, let's shadow it. I mean, my titles are just whatever. So you can do like an offset shadowing. So this is the same die, cut it in white, added some glue, and I'm just offsetting it to the right just a little bit so that white will be sticking out on the left-hand side of the die. And now you have this really cool shadow effect. Super simple, Ain't rocket science. This die cut, if I can find it, I'll link to it. I love it. Maybe it's still available. I don't know. But again, this was in my magic bin with all these backgrounds. I had already done it one time, so I pulled that out. I'm going to go ahead and swink on the same clay mask because some of the dots I didn't poke through on purpose. So this is actually going to be my favorite card, believe it or not. Look how quick it was. Look how simple it was to make. So I used the same color background, so some of those dots that I did poke out, all the dots could have come out, but I didn't want that look. I just poked out a few. And then I'll go ahead and adhere this, and this is my favorite. Simplicity at its finest. Check it. Don't you like it? Don't you? All right, let's dip it. Dip it. This is from a cut from my last video, but this is such an easy technique. Take some masking tape, kind of cover up the top or bottom, whatever way you want to do it, of your word die. Then you'll go ahead and swink on some embossing ink. Obviously, the only part of the word die that is exposed will get the embossing ink. And then go ahead and dump on some embossing powder. That's it. You can dip it. You can also just color it if you don't want the embossed look too, but I wanted the embossed look. But that's it. You dip it. Dip it real good, and look at that. So many things you can do with the word dies, and if you're like me, you have a lot of word dies. And you want to do more than just slap it on a card base. So I hope this gives you some inspiration on different things you can do with those word dies that you have. So click the bell, click the subscribe button. You know the drill. Which card was your favorite? I always like to know that. The wolves were by far the favorite in my last video. And let me know what you want to see in the future. And I'll see you next time.